Continuing on from my previous video about the modern day of Assassin's Creed, I was thinking more about it, and specifically the bleeding effect. I love that there was this narrative tool used to explain why Desmond or Layla could have the same animations and skill set as their historical counterpart. But I was thinking more about it, and what if instead of just transferring over the ancestors' skills, what if it also transferred over their personality? If you've read the Dune novels, then you'd understand maybe where I'm coming from with this. In that story, the characters have to grapple with the possibility of being possessed by their previous lives that they unlock. I was just thinking, what if that was also a potential risk of the bleeding effect? That someone like Desmond could inadvertently start becoming like Ezio. That wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing because, Ezio's a really cool person. However, there would always be someone in your genetic history who wasn't a good person, who was actually a real piece of work. What if they started to creep forward and take over the personality by being in the Animus for too long? I know this is going to get into a pretty dark topic, but you think about how these genetic memories are passed along. They're obviously passed along from conception during intercourse, right? We see that in Assassin's Creed 2 in the bleeding effect hallucination that Desmond has between Maria and Altair. Unfortunately, not every bit of conception is going to be, let's say, consensual. The person and their personality who's willing to do that horrific act is a scumbag. So what if that was the personality that was the one being imprinted on this new person? That'd be pretty scary. You'd have these memories and these personalities of the ancestor you don't want to be associated with slowly taking over. Bit of a spoiler here for Children of Dune, but that's actually what happens to a character. A specific personality actually takes control of them and starts making decisions, and that ancestor is a real piece of work themselves. Assassin's Creed, it's got this sort of fascination now with bringing the historical protagonist into the modern day. We've seen that twice now with Cassandra in Odyssey and Basim in Valhalla. What if instead of these characters literally still being alive in the present day, their consciousness and their behaviours and personality were transferred into a new body via the bleeding effect side effect? So imagine the fanbase goes, man, I love Edward Kenway, I wish he would just come back in some way, shape or form. And then in the modern day, it gets revealed that the modern day protagonist has been reliving Edward's memories for too long, and suddenly, boom, his personality is taken over, and you've got Edward in the modern day in a new body. They wouldn't be like, oh, where am I? One minute I was boarding a ship, and the next I'm in a computer room. It's just that the new personality would slowly come through to the point where you as the audience start to go, hey, that's Edward. Edward's back. Do I think this is a good idea? Yeah, not necessarily, but I just think it's an interesting idea. This is what I mean when I was saying in the previous video that there's just so much untapped potential with modern day, and I don't think that Ubisoft has really fully uncovered it. More focus should be put on the modern day and its narrative, and who knows whether Rise may come up with something similar to what I've just brainstormed today, but you might get some really unique narrative situations out of it. Of course, we do see the negative side effects of the bleeding effect in the form of Subject 16. However, what if instead of going completely crazy and not knowing what time period he was in, the modern day protagonist comes to the bleeding effect fully and allows their personality to be taken over? Not too similar to what happens with sages. Another thing about the bleeding effect that I think has yet to really been taken advantage of, that they've hinted at, is that when you're in the Animus too long, not only do you start to get hallucinations and skills from your reliving ancestor, but also the ones you've not yet relived. In Valhalla, there's an audio file from Desmond talking about how he's suddenly been getting these visions of what we now know to be Edward Kenway. I believe similar things happened as well with Subject 16. He didn't actually access all those ancestor memories that he's ranting about in the truth puzzles from AC2. However, because he's been in the Animus so long, all of his genetic memories are coming to the forefront, and it's very hard to differentiate between the two. That's a gameplay mechanic that could be used for a modern day protagonist, who is constantly slipping in and out of reality and revisiting historical memories at the flick of a switch. Imagine something similar to what happened in AC Unity, where it goes between the different time periods of Paris. Imagine the modern day protagonist running down the street in London in 2024, and then all of a sudden, without any sort of loading screen or anything like that, he's running down the street during the Second World War, and there's bombs dropping and sirens blaring, and then another switch, and he's in Industrial Revolution London, and then another switch, and he's in Napoleonic era London, and then another switch and he's in medieval London, and it goes on and on and on, and he's inhabiting the memories of different ancestors, different assassins, different people who are all doing things in this one city throughout history. I think maybe that's an idea for a standalone game that you could do where there are many historical protagonists throughout it because the modern day protagonist is constantly switching in and out of them. I know the original idea for Assassin's Creed 3 was that Desmond was going to do some sort of time travel, maybe that narrative component can be brought back and can be used for puzzles. Let's say there's a door that needs getting opened in the Monday, and so 100 years earlier, the Monday protagonist uses a certain type of wood that's going to be decayed by the time the Monday happens, and it can be easily kicked open, something like that. But yeah, just more thoughts rattling in my brain, about the Monday, and I genuinely think Ubisoft has got a golden egg on their hands, but they don't realise it, and they're slowly letting it slip away. If you yourself have any other interesting narrative ideas that Ubisoft could use for Monday, or even a historical narrative idea, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm always interested to hear these kinds of discussions that the fans have. But in the meantime, thanks for watching and stay safe.